All right, here we go, guys. We have Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert, the famous Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert, who live here in El Salvador. We're really excited for what they have to bring. Bitcoin, El Salvador, the richest country on earth. So no further ado, Max and Stacy. Let's go. Give a round of applause.
Hello. Where are the proper chairs? Like, what kind of chairs are these? You're going to see right up my dress. I hope you don't mind. Usually they have bar stools and this sort of thing, right? You have to sit up. Right. Let's sit on the edge of this. This is better.
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
There, Max.
It's cocktail bar style.
So, welcome to El Salvador. Welcome to Renaissance 2.0. We call this the richest country in the world, few. That's the title of the talk. Now, when you think of Medici, you think of a rich guy, right? But was he rich for all the gold he had, for all the power he had, or is he richest for the legacy he left behind, for the transformation that he brought in? Renaissance 1.0. We have Renaissance 2.0. You know, this is the sort of thing that we're building here in El Salvador. We're not just playing at this. We're not just playing Bitcoin country. We are Bitcoin country. And I think everybody has, many people here have expressed that. I see in your, hey, shut the fuck up over there. This is fucking Bitcoin country. This isn't some shitcoin country. Go to a shitcoin festival if you wanna talk while other people are. Can you put that down there? Right. So
Big Sean, thank you.
Big Sean. Right. So yeah, I think many of you have already expressed the desire to move here as soon as you land. And what's that about, Max? Like, why do people land here and want to move?
Well, you know, this is tabula rasa. It's a blank slate. You can come here, and you got a few things going for you. We've got Bitcoin as legal tender, the soundest money ever, the foundation upon which you can build a new society and a new civilization, the new Plymouth Rock, the new moon, the new Gibraltar, the new fountainhead, the new basis upon which one can exercise their self-worth, self-experience, to be yourself, to be your authentic self. You can do it right here in El Salvador, because this is the country of the free, the land of the free, the home of the Bitcoin. You can be who you want to be. You can be who you are. There's no restrictions. No one's telling you what you have to say, when you have to say it, and what you have to say it about. Just say the truth. Say the truth, and you will be free. And you can do it right here in El Salvador, because the President Bukele has said, you know what, we want people here, we want builders. We want people here who come here, and they will help us become the new shining city on a hill. They want to help us be the destination for all the creatives in the world. The Renaissance 2.0, as Stacy has talked about. And what happened? They created the florin, the best money that had ever existed up until that point, and it became world famous, and everyone ended up going to Italy and participating in the Renaissance, and that's what we're trying to build right here, right?
When Max says you could say whatever you want, that's unless you're married to me. Right.
Spank me. Spank me harder. That's what I love.
Right.
Yeah, we're into S&M, shitcoins and meme coins.
Right. So anyway, yeah, Max is always going to keep on bringing it out to something funny there. But seriously, like, so Max and I have been here. We moved here 2.5 years ago, and that was before President Bukele's war against the gangs, before we went from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Americas. We're at sort of Iceland levels or Luxembourg levels of homicide at the moment, at 1.5 in the first quarter per 100,000, which was far better than the U.S. Canada, by comparison, is at 2.0. So, we moved here in the very early days. That was at the last peak of the Bitcoin price. We've now passed that all-time high. And we went through 2 years of a bull market, a bear market. And it was actually an amazing time for us here because
I think the security issue is dovetailing into the economic growth issue. So you saw the country just reported 3.5% GDP growth year on year. And it's, as pointed out by El Salvador News today, that's now exceeding the growth of the United States. It's one of the fastest growing countries in the world. And this was achieved in large part by getting rid of this huge drag on the economy, which were the MS-13 and Barrio 18 gang, So the president got rid of the gangs. And that was a $6 billion cash infusion. That's how much these gangs were extorting from Salvadorans, $6 billion a year. And at that time, it was a $28 billion economy. Now it's a $33 billion economy. So that's like a 20% dividend to all Salvadorans. We're going to put all the guys extorting the money from you in prison. And that flowed directly to the bottom line. The government didn't really take any of that at all. It just went right into the 5,000 pupusa sellers all over the country, small businessmen, families, education, and it went right into the economy, and it started to have a multiplicity effect. And so now tourism is up 11% year on year. It's, I think, the second fastest growing component of the economy, right behind remittances. And so all the spectrum of every data point in the entire economy is moving in the right direction because the president took the bold step of going to war against the gangs. And he took a lot of shit for that around the world, but I think that he has proven that he made the right choice. And now a lot of these human rights groups that were a year ago complaining, oh no, are saying, you know what, this guy was actually right.
Yeah, exactly. So the gang war started, the war against the gangs started exactly 2 years ago last week. And Max and I had the dinner with the president on, I think it was March 24th, along with Ricardo Salinas, the Mexican tycoon and billionaire. And the next day, we had the bloodiest weekend in the history of El Salvador, 87 assassinations from the gangs, right? And the gang war started. And, at that time, we had just moved here, and we were quite relatively new here. And one of the things, there were some Bitcoiners as well who joined the side of the U.S. media who were saying, negative things about the gang war at that time and referring to the president as a dictator or dictator-like, and some Bitcoiners that did that. But one thing Max and I did is we went out within 3 weeks. We were following the president would tweet all the photos of the gangs being arrested. And so, again, we were relatively new here, and I just kept on seeing Ilopango, Soyopango, Apopa, the same names over and over. And at the same time, Bitfinex gave us $2 million worth of Bitcoin to go give to the victims of gangs. So I decided, they said, however you think you're on the ground, how do you feel like you is best there to deploy the $2 million worth of Bitcoin. So I had it on this phone, on a green wallet. I took $2 million and went into the gang of liberated areas. It was only 3 weeks into it, and there were about 10,000 gangs at that time, members who had been arrested. Now there's 70,000. So there were still 60,000 out there, and we decided, since everybody's saying horrible things, let's go to those areas and see, let's deliver them rather than through an NGO or something. Let's just give them, they've been liberated, right? They finally are independent of the gangs. Their right to life, liberty, and property has been restored. So let's go give them the ultimate independence. Let's give them the ultimate property, perfect property. Let's give them self-sovereignty. And we went, and I don't know if you know how hard it is to actually distribute $2 million across, it was 3 different days in each of those former gang areas, hand by hand by hand, $500 worth, $1,000 worth, $2,000 worth, and it took hours and hours and hours, but we talked to every single individual person who we were giving the Bitcoin to, And we saw that was just 3 weeks into it. And that was total liberation, joy on the faces of the people. So we always knew from very early on, we got to see straight up close that the transformation was real right there. So that's why we were way early to be able to say on Twitter, now X, that back then it was still Twitter, but we were able to say, like, people have been liberated, and this is the beginning of a real renaissance here.
Yeah, I recall vividly when you came up with this idea. Let's put $2 million on a hot wallet and go into a gang zone in Apopa. And I remember my reaction was, what the fuck did you just say? So, as a lot of people know, Stacy has courage of a lion, and she actually goes into these places with these ideas. And throughout our careers, even as journalists, she would go to Cairo and just walk right into the huge war zone, or in Athens. And, I remember in Apopa, we were giving this money away, and this tattooed fellow from MS-13, I saw him on the periphery, and he was bringing his friends over, and he was pointing, and then one of his friends said, "Is that fucking Stacy?" They fucking ran. They're like, "We're not going to fuck with Stacy."
Apopa was the last one we did, and Salvadorans here would know that was actually one of the most dangerous of them. And the little area we went into, there's a pedestrian bridge between a little community called San Francisco and one called Los Angeles. And the guy who we were coordinated with, he said, "Hey, this bridge is famous for their rapes and murders." And I was like, I think you should come up with a better marketing tool, because that is a bad slogan to have on your poster to, like, "Welcome to Apopa. This bridge is famous for rapes and murders." I was like, that's really bad. But we were, at that time, we were traveling with a Salvadoran woman who is a translator for us. And she went to Ilopango with us, then she went to Soyapango, and then we went into Apopa, like, the following week. And she was like, "No, I'm not going with you there. Sorry, it's way too dangerous." So I was like, well, I already announced in the news that we're going there with $1 million on our hot wallet, so we're going to go there. And she showed up at the last minute. She's like, "You know what? I decided if they're willing to die for my country, then I'm willing to die for it too." But it was fine. Like, think of that mindset, because President Bukele recently said that on September 15th, our Independence Day, that, the Salvadorans need to change their mindsets. He's helped fix the country. He's transformed the country. We have true independence. We have so much liberty now, but now you have to believe you have it and understand you have it and, like, act on that. So think of that mindset of, here was a Salvadoran woman, born and raised here, lived here, and she was afraid to go see her neighbors, right? She was afraid to walk amongst her neighbors and be part of the community. That's extraordinary. And also to think that so many people at that time, like, actually when Max and I first came here, we came to a Bitcoin conference, and the guy who organized it asked us to come, and we said yes. And then 3 days later, he called and he's like, "Thank God you came, because you know what? We had only sold 3 tickets before, and now you announced you're coming, and we sold 1,000 over the weekend." And because people were like, if anybody's going to be kidnapped, it's going to be Max and Stacy, not us. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of fucking country is this? I just, like, all I knew is it was like the president had made it Bitcoin legal tender, and I hadn't bothered to, like, look it up. And I was like, yeah. Holy shit.
I remember on the plane saying, "I thought I told you to look it up." Jesus fucking Christ. Fucking, it's all fucking murders every day. What the fuck, man? You thought you looked it up.
No, but we felt obliged because they had sold all these tickets. And I was like, well, I guess we have to die for Bitcoin, because all these Bitcoiners fucking listen to us. And we have to now go to fucking die because of they're stupid enough to follow us here, right? So, but that mindset of us being afraid to come here. It's like, so outsiders are afraid, insiders are afraid. Everybody is afraid of each other. And I think that mindset, it's like a prison, right? President Bukele actually made a great video like a year or so ago about that we were all imprisoned. The Salvadoran people were imprisoned for 40 years, 30 years by gangs, right? You were our young friend from Bitcoin Office here, our assistant in Bitcoin Office, Mario, many people know him. Like, he talks about it all the time. He was, so many things are still so new to him, like things that we just take for granted. He's like, I wasn't able to do this 2 years ago. I couldn't come out at this hour. And it just seems so bizarre to us. It's like, because it's pretty much all we've known here of El Salvador.
Yeah, it's like that. I guess it's a parable of the elephant, right? When there's the baby elephant at the circus, they keep it tied up with a small rope. And so the elephant tries to escape, but it can't. And then over the years, the elephant becomes huge, 4 or 5 ton elephant. But it has the mindset that this little rope is tethering it to the stake and it can't move. And in El Salvador, after the Civil War and then the gang war, and the mindset of we can't go outside, we can't move, we are prisoners in our own home, it just became multi-generational. It became set. And so I think what we've been able to offer is that we don't know what we don't know. So, we show up and we're just looking with our eyes, and we just went out there and we're just normal. And being normal was huge to a population that hadn't known normalcy in 50 years. And to hear the stories now, I remember I heard something the other day. A man was saying that before Bukele, my house was too small, and after Bukele, my house is too big. And I say, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, before Bukele, we all stayed in the house all day and we never left. After Bukele, everyone's out of the house all day and nobody's home. And I thought that was a wonderful story, that kind of illustrates the change that's gone on. And when, of course, this, again, economically has a huge boost because everyone is now mixing with everybody else and traveling and talking, and they're doing economic growth, right? The historic downtown center of El Salvador, the historic center district, that was the most dangerous of the most dangerous quarter in the entire country. It's now one of the safest places in the entire Western Hemisphere. And there are millions of visitors now. The new library is attracting, millions of people who want to see the library. They're going into there, and of course they're dropping cash, and they're dropping cash on local businesses. And it's a lot of local businesses because the international businesses really haven't caught on to El Salvador yet, because the rating agencies still have it on a junk bond rating, and there's still thought pieces in the Washington Post about the dangers of El Salvador and the dictator running El Salvador. So it's keeping all the multinationals out, which is great.
Because it's good for us, because it's good for the builders. Like, this is what we focused on over during the bear market, right, is we focused on just bringing the best and the brightest. And that's the good thing about, me and Max being so old. It sucks mostly, but at least we've been around since the beginning, right? So since 2010 in Bitcoin. So we were able to, we know the people who survived several cycles. Not only could they survive the bear markets when, frankly, I find those the most amusing because of the memers, right? The bear markets are the best for the memers. When Bitcoin, it doesn't do it as much, but when it would dive like 20% in a week, and everybody gets nervous at that sort of thing, but the memers came out. But during this bear market, we've been able to target all the best and the brightest and bring them there, and we have a lot of the best Bitcoin builders coming here, and I think that's sets in motion for the future. I think with this bull market now here, I think we have a lot of the best builders here. We have Strike here, their global headquarters are here. We have Fold, their global headquarters are here. We have Azteco, their global headquarters are here. Bitfinex, of course, has been a really important partner to us since the beginning. They were here as well before the gang war, and they've really helped support so many of the initiatives that we've done in El Salvador, especially the education. We've done a lot of education projects here. We put Me Premier Bitcoin in the high schools. We're now working with Lena Seish on a workbook and an education project for the grade school. And we, of course, have Kubo Plus, which is the Bitcoin and Lightning Devs program for the university level students. And that's been extraordinary because, we've taken the best and brightest of El Salvador, not just attracting the best and brightest from overseas to move here, but we've built up the best and brightest here. And so we have 21 trained Bitcoin Lightning devs here in this country. They were educated by Jimmy Song and Peter Todd. Adam Beck got hung out with them in Via Reggio. So yeah, I think we have a pretty cool talent base here now, Mags.
Yeah, the education is certainly been a phenomenal success story, the educational projects. And that was came out of a discussion also that we were having early on, which is that to be in Bitcoin country, to help the president create Bitcoin country, there's actually two sides to the coin that have to be addressed. One is to push Bitcoin maximalism, and then the other side is to set up a perimeter, effectively, to keep out the shitcoins. So during the bear market in particular, all the shitcoin explosions like Celsius and Luna and the shitcoins of that era, none of them touched El Salvador. And that was by a sheer dint of persistence and working really hard. Because the calculation that was made is that the brand value of Bitcoin maximalism for El Salvador is so fantastically greater by magnitude of 1,000x than any possible incremental minutia gain from any shitcoin coming over the transom. And when you look at it in those terms, you understand that the brand value of Bitcoin country and Bukele, President Bukele, is a very dynamic combination, a very powerful combination. And I'm thinking about his recent speech at CPAC, which went over really well. And he delivered an economics lesson to the United States about inflation and about the risk to the dollar and about how the country was merely printing money to buy their own debt, which of course is the definition, the textbook definition of a banana republic. Countries printing money to buy back their own debt. Now, we had a little chat in the days leading up to that speech, and people were giving their input into what the speech might be. And my suggestion to the president would be to add the line, "Who's the banana republic now, bitch?" That was cut from the final speech. But if you want to read "Who's the Banana Republic Now, Bitch" column in Bitcoin Magazine that I wrote, you can read through it, and it's unvarnished Max isms, and it's a lot of fun. Before I kick it back to Stacy, is Yellow here? Speaking of memes, is Yellow here? Where is Yellow?
Right there.
Oh, so if you don't know Yellow, he is the biggest malaka in Greece. And
Now,
since,
in all of the world.
right, and since Greece is the capital of Malakas, you could say that he's the biggest malaka in the world. Malaka, of course, is Greek for chronic masturbator, I believe is a correct definition. And, of course,
Only the best and brightest here, and he's the best of the Malaccas. And so that's why El Salvador, invited him to come to El Salvador, because we hadn't had a single one in this country until that point.
Well, the entire average Malacca-ness of the country went up just by his presence, which is remarkable. It's just an incredible achievement. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. That's Yellow, ladies and gentlemen. Yellow. Yellow, who also predicted the recent bull market. He said there's a holy event coming, a holy day. He called the bottom to the absolute day. So that must be some Greek mythological, serious mind warp stuff you got cooking on there. Maybe it's the souvlaki. You had a lot of that, but whatever.
Right, these gangs, the corruption, all of the stuff that President Bukele fixed in the course of, really it was like 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. It was all gone, right? But the same guy who would pick Bitcoin, because remember, other jurisdictions, you have Puerto Rico, they're like crypto island. You had Miami coin in Miami. You have like Dubai, and they're crypto. And none of them were had the right, strength of character. Do you ever see the IMF complaining about Puerto Rico or Dubai or any of these places that are crypto? No, they don't. They don't give a shit, right? Because they know exactly what crypto is. They know it is the same proof of stake. They know it is the same confiscatable money, that it's censored money, that it's oligarch money, and that's what they're comfortable with. And so all they hassle, the only country they hassle, the only leader they hassle is the only leader in the world, and that is President Bukele.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'll tell you the story. You know, we came here in November of 2021 as part of adopting Bitcoin. Was it that the name of the event?
The Adopting Bitcoin.
And we ended up
the BitConf.
The BitConf. It was very impressive, and the president was very impressive. And we were heading back to the United States, and we thought, this country's got a really good chance at succeeding with Bitcoin. And then there was something, a straw in the wind, or something was happening where a shitcoin was making inroads into the country. And, my reaction was, well, that lasted about 3 weeks. Fuck them. And Stacy went on a tirade with somebody in the government, and unknowing by her, it got back to the. Oh, I shouldn't go into details.
There's a phone call from
who
telling you to stop this.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No. Hold on. No, actually, we're trying to. Hello, this is the Minister of Agriculture, and he's a Bitcoiner. Are you stuck at the gate like everybody else?
I think that. Who wants to hear my story?
No, Max.
I don't know. I feel like I should be liberated myself.
No. Big Sean Harris, there's the Minister of Agriculture, I think, is stuck at the gate like everybody else. Max and I were there for like 45 minutes also. We couldn't get in. But anyway, I couldn't hear from him. Anyway, so we kicked the shitcoiners tried to get in, of course. You could just Google it. You could see all the Axie Infinity and all that was the big one at that time. Remember those, the first of the Web3s, Axie Infinity. They were really trying hard to get in here, and there were certain people I won't mention, like Udi. And he went on a tirade on Twitter saying that, El Salvador adopted Bitcoin and this is ridiculous. They could have just adopted Axie Infinity and, the population could be earning money instead, like they are in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Right? Just go Google, look at a chart at CoinGecko of Axie Infinity and what happened to that.
Yeah, exactly. So the point being that it's been a two-front battle: Bitcoin maximalism and keeping shitcoins out, and it's an ongoing process. And but the benefits are starting to really roll in. And when you look at the tourism numbers, obviously Big Sean Harris got this event going, and this is 550 folks for the Halving party. There he is, Big Sean Harris. So he's been a fan, and we're a fan of Big Sean for years. And so this is we just came out of an event last night in downtown El Salvador. We raised $67,000 for Me Premier Bitcoin.
Well, to put it in terms that Bitcoiners understand, we raised over 100 million Satoshis.
That's right, over 100 million Satoshis.
We auctioned off one of Max Keiser special edition grenade from Crypto Cloaks, and we got 30 million Satoshis for it.
Exactly.
And that was for Me Premier Bitcoin. So, maybe people have questions, but I want to also mention that one of the programs that we announced I think it was back in November or December, is called Adopting El Salvador. And you can get your passport here to El Salvador, to Bitcoin country, and it just takes 2 weeks. So it does cost you some Bitcoin. But if you want this lifestyle, this Bitcoin lifestyle, economic liberty, and to be part of building this new country, it's not just a country. It is like, how would you describe Florence? How would you describe being at a certain moment in history? So if you had the opportunity to hang out with Lorenzo the Magnificent and, dine with him and Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Botticelli, like, what would you give for that? Like, what value is that?
Well, you make a good point, because being here and working as we do with the president, you really have a once-in-a-lifetime experience, or a once-in-a-multi-hundred-year experience. This has been my feeling, is that I'm actually witnessing something very historic. And there's a lot of people around, and the president attracts a lot of really talented people, and they come and they, you know, for me, since Stacy alluded to earlier, I am old. I just turned 64, so I was around when JFK was president, and you know, he was very inspiring. He started the Peace Corps and these other elements, and people really were thinking of helping their country, and this was the mindset at the time. And this has been recreated, where people are really thinking about their country in a way that you don't find anywhere else. And I think this is why a lot of Salvadorans that live in the United States, there are approximately 3 million, are moving back to El Salvador. The numbers at the border are pretty interesting. It's reverse migration. So there's more people leaving the U.S., fleeing the U.S. to come back to El Salvador than the other way around. So we're going to hit that reverse migration number here probably in the next few months. And I'm sure that it'll get down to 80, 90% of those at the border are Salvadorans and others fleeing the United States, because the United States is in a late cycle empire and dynasty that's on its last legs, its last breath. And El Salvador is coming out of their fourth turning. They're coming out of the dark times. This is the beginning of a multi-decade good times for this country. So they're the first out of the gate in terms of having been through the difficult decades. And they're now looking ahead, and they're starting the recycle, the rebirth. I mean, the name of the country is the Savior, and it really is the Savior in a lot of ways. Just like during the Dark Ages in Europe, the intellectual center of gravity for planet Earth went east. It was in the Arab world where you found the intellectual center of gravity. It had moved away from Europe. Well, now it's moving away from the U.S. and from Europe, and it's moving here to this country. And so for people who are looking for opportunity, people who are looking for adventure, people who are looking for a means of self-expression, this is their destination. And you've been here now, you're visiting here, you feel it on the street. You came here and you verified for yourself that we're not talking nonsense. This is actually happening. And families are moving here, and so this is the beginning of a great epoch. This Bitcoin epoch that started in 2024 with this halving, and this is the halving party, will be the epoch of El Salvador. You know, we had the previous epoch. I would say it's like the Michael Saylor epoch. Before that, you know, you can go backwards and talk about it in those terms. But I think this 24 to 2028 will be the epoch of El Salvador and President Bukele. And, of course, Wall Street will be a big factor as well. But if you put a face on it, it'll be President Bukele.
Right. Yeah, I think, the president always tweets, strong men create good times. And I think the good times are here. And I think they can last. I think Bitcoin can end that cycle, because inevitably they get to a point of proof of stake. A society that does very well, and the oligarchs and the wealthy, the sort of families, the political power resides with a certain people, and they don't give it up and they don't share. But I think Bitcoin ends that cycle, and it is an epoch. It is like I was saying, what would you give to be at that moment in Florence, or what would you give to be at that moment in Paris or Edinburgh when the Enlightenment ideas are starting to happen? What would you give to be hanging out with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle all hanging out together with Alexander the Great? What would you do to be there? These sort of moments only happen very rarely, and I think it's if you think of all those moments, if you think of Florence, if you think of Edinburgh, if you think of Paris, if you think of, ancient Greece, like ancient Rome, you think of like the best and the brightest. Where Alexandria, like if you invite the best and the brightest, if you attract it, I don't think it's more than just inviting. Like, you have to have something. You have to have the right ingredients, and we have the right ingredients here, I believe, to have the best and the brightest. And I think great things inevitably happen.
I believe you are correct. Well, should I wander into the audience and solicit some questions?
We got some questions already, Max.
Okay,
right.
they have a mic out there.
Yeah, you have
don't
a mic?
need to go
We
out.
got a mic.
All right, well, I'm old school. I'm
Okay,
like
three
Phil
que-
Donahue. So,
Three questions from the crowd. First one, I think people like to hear, given you're on the subject, about the citizenship or residency program.
Oh,
if you
good.
want to say something about that. Do you want the other two questions now or?
No.
in a minute? Okay,
It's
let's hear
better
that.
because that's just too confusing, and I'll only remember the third question. I'll forget the first two.
I agree.
So, but I did want to. We did segue away from that. We got diverted, but we have a website. It's adoptingelsalvador.gov.sv. And Mario and I will be, we have a booth for Adopting El Salvador at the venue tomorrow. We'll be there all day, answering your questions directly if you have more specific questions. But what it is it's a fast track to citizenship through donation. So you're donating Bitcoin or Tether to the government, and that money that is donated goes towards building the exact sort of country that you see the president already doing, the policies that you already see. They're going towards economic, social, cultural development, and if you like what you see, then you'll get more of that. And that's investing in the sort of place you want to be, right? This is the place we want to be. Like, we can make it the place we want to be. As Max said, it's a clean slate. It's a blank slate. This is a new country, and this is a new El Salvador. And the donation is $1 million worth, and it includes you, your family, all your children under 18, and it's a fast track to citizenship within 2 or 3 weeks, for the most part.
oh, $1 suddenly.
Well, whatever the Bitcoin, like in December, people paid 25 Bitcoin for it. Now it's about 15 Bitcoin.
What about the slow track?
Well, you can go to. There's several lawyers in town. You could either talk to ASO Bitcoin, who are here at the event, and they also have a booth, asobitcoin.org, or you can go to acceleratesv.io, and it'll take 5 years. But you could do that slow track to that. But
Okay.
I don't know that I don't run that program. I run the adoptingelsalvador.gov.sv. So I can only advise on that. I don't know the other particularities of the other programs.
Okay, I've got a hard one here. What happens post Nayib Bukele? What happens when his term has run? How does the transition?
We just said, strongmen create good times, and the good
Right.
times are here. Speak to Salvadorans. Like, do you think they're going to go, oh, well, President Bukele is no longer here. Let's go back to the bad times. That guy's corrupt. Yeah, let's go back to the old parties. Let's go back to the old ways. The guys who are going to do exactly what caused 50 years of a lost decades. Like, this was a country from which you fled.
Right.
Mario here, anybody down at Bitcoin Beach, you talk to Chimbera, and they'll tell you that they grew up, and all of their friends, all of their family, they dreamt of going to America, mostly, or going to Europe, and they fled the country. Now everybody wants to come back. Now their passport is worth $1 million. We're shifting mindsets. Salvadorans went from paying $12,000 to a coyote to take them across the border, for the Mexican-U.S. border, and fleeing this country. And now they're saying, wait, my passport's worth $1 million. My people want to live here. People want to be here. Like, why are all these people coming here? Like, how many of these people, these gringos, arrived here, and within a day or two, they're like, I want to live in El Salvador. Like, I'm Salvadoran, and we get that all the time. Our neighbor, the guy who lives above us, his family fled in 1986, I think it was. No, not 19, after the gangs came here from Los Angeles, okay? So they were Salvadorans who were living in, the undocumented Salvadorans for the most part, many of them in Los Angeles, and they were formed in the prison system in California. Then Clinton deported them all, sent thousands of them, thousands and thousands, back to El Salvador from 92, 93, 94. And so this is the place that people used to flee from. and now they're coming back to it. So I think the mindset has shifted.
Yeah, plus, the magic of Bitcoin, it's a decentralized protocol. It separates money from state. President Bukele's made it legal tender. President Bukele is reinventing the state. There's a program now in El Salvador called Node Nation. All high school students around the country are running their own nodes. That's the goal. That gives, right?
Amazing.
That gives you the idea. You understand that the democracy, your vote is the node. You're the network. You're just like the hard fork of 2017 trying to override the protocol and bring in the big blockers. The node said, no, fuck you. Once you introduce Bitcoin to a society, they educate themselves to the point where they no longer accept a shit government. They no longer accept a shit government like people vote for in the United States or in Europe or in China or in Asia. They only accept the best because they're running on a Bitcoin protocol, they're running on a Bitcoin standard, and Node Nation will make sure that the revolution continues beyond Bukele. And that's what's going on here. You can be assured that this is the place to be for 20, 30, 40 years. Okay, because people are now under the influence of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin changes the way you think on a deep and profound level, where you reject mediocrity, you reject the violence of fiat money, you reject the kakistocracy of electing fucking brain-dead, senile, shitty, poopy pants assholes in the White House, because you have more respect for yourself. Nobody with any self-respect would vote for a senile, fucking triple incontinent bastard. Nobody would. Nobody with self-respect would. Here, it's all about self-respect, and Node Nation's on the rise.
All right, fantastic.
All right.
Last one that I pre-solicited before you came on is, how did Nayib Bukele get orange pilled?
I think you'll have to ask him.
All right.
Well, he was tweeting about it before he took office, and he had been observing it all along. So I think when the opportunity became aware that he could make it legal, he jumped on it. So he'd been tracking it for a number of years. And he's also a big fan of the Keiser report, right? So that's kind of the reason why we got an invitation to go talk to him, because he's been watching Keiser report for years, like many people have, particularly in the Spanish-speaking world. In Mexico, in Mexico City, we have a tremendous following. So that could be part of it.
He's also, President Bukele is really a smart guy. Like, he's really, really smart. And you could hear that in his speeches, right? You could tell. He's, even when, like at CPAC, he's speaking in another language. It's not his first language. He's speaking in his second language. And he's able to articulate so brilliantly. And I think that it conveys how smart he is. He is a smart guy. He reads a lot of things. He reads a lot of books. He reads a lot of, he thinks. He's a thinker, right? He's a philosopher king. And I think a philosopher king would naturally find Bitcoin, right?
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? You want to raise your hand? I'll bring the mic over to you. Anyone? Okay. Sean, do you want to take this? Yeah.
We have one? Oh, right here. Here we go. Let's get the mic. Here we go.
Yeah, just a simple question. Who introduced you guys to Bitcoin?
Well, I guess it was me. No, so like when we made Keiser Report, I would always research all the news. I just read everything, all sorts of online news, and I would find interesting headlines based on my own past experience in Hollywood, where I worked in a lot of script development, and in films. Like one thing, a way to tell a story is to juxtapose images, right? To advance a story without actually having to use dialogue. And so I would always juxtapose headlines. I would look for headlines in the world, whether it was from today, last week, last year or 10 years ago and juxtapose headlines to tell a story. And in 2010, we covered Bitcoin, and we mentioned it, and then because we mentioned it on a headline, we didn't go into it much further than just covering it in the headline. And at that time, 2010, we were anti-central banker. We were more like gold bugs. We were covering gold and had a lot of gold guests like Peter Schiff on, and so he was there from the beginning when we were covering it at a few pennies, and then because we covered it, then the few Bitcoiners out there, they were already they were messaging about it on Bitcoin Talk, like, oh my God, Keiser Report just talked about Bitcoin. And so some Bitcoiners reached out to us. The first guest we had was John Matonis, who, of course, then got, hoodwinked by Fake Toshi. He actually offered us an interview with Fake Toshi back in 2015, was it? We said no. And Max called him a fraud on the show back then. And he never sued us back then, but he called it in 2015. So John Matonis came on the show, and I think that was in March of 2011. And you know what orange pilled me really? We did a more in-depth half of the episode was about covering Bitcoin. Oh, there's our Minister of Agriculture over there. We're going to bring him up on the stage in a second, but because he's doing a lot of interesting things, and we're doing a lot of we're working on some trade deals with Bitcoin. So he's actually a lot of Bitcoiners are really into agriculture, and so they're always asking me about buying agricultural land here. When we covered Bitcoin at 2011, and it was $2 or what? No, it was $1 maybe $1, and we remember our audience was a lot of gold bugs. And we covered it, and maybe I would have gone on and never covered it again. But there was so much hate in the comments under the YouTube. They were like, this sounds like a fucking scam. Some guy just printed up $20 million for himself, and these bozos are talking about it. And there was so much hate, and actually somebody called it a shitcoin. Now, it's not Bitcoin, it's shitcoin. And they hated it so much. I was like, why do they hate? We talk about so many things. We've never had hate before. And so, of course, I started digging a little bit deeper into it. And then Amir Taki came onto the show, and we started. We started talking. We were the Bitcoiners, the few Bitcoiners in existence back then. They really reached out to us, and were always wanting to come on the show.
Yeah. So we have all those the first few years, really the only network coverage in the world of Bitcoin, and so a lot of people heard about it from Keiser Report all over the world, except, ironically in the United States, because of course the U.S. had a media ban against RT, so most of the millionaires we created from Bitcoin live outside of the U.S. So you can thank your government for censoring RT, the reason you're not a millionaire.
All right. You have a question?
So I've been buying Bitcoin for 2 years with my birthday money and money from the Tooth Fairy. And it's kind of hard to stack some stats. I just want to know if I'm too late to be a part of the Bitcoin community.
The Tooth Fairy. He's stacking sats with his Tooth Fairy money. Give it up for him. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. What's your name?
Michael.
All right. Michael wants to know if it's too late.
No, Michael, you're right on time. Because there's two things, Michael, you have to consider. Number one is, what is your money going to be worth in 10 years and 20 years? And Bitcoin will be worth more, mathematically guaranteed, to give you greater purchasing power. That is, if you can buy more stuff with it every single year for the rest of your life. So you're not too late. You're right on time. As a matter of fact, a lot of people here are envious that you'll be getting 40, 50 years of compounding at 30, 40, 50, 60%. I'm not in that same position. So am I too late? You'll be on your yacht sailing on the Mediterranean, saying, remember that wacky guy on the beach? Wow. You can pour out a Dos Equis for that guy. So, no, well, congratulations. And I know that this is all a ruse just to get us to send you some more sats. I know that. I've been around this business a long time. I know what's
You're
going
supposed
on.
to come up with a QR code.
What's going on? Come up on stage here. Let's get this. Do you have a wallet address? You can tell the people about it. You know, we'll put it on maybe the website or something. You can donate to
We'll
your.
tweet it.
You know, you've got 500 tooth fairies ready to make your day.
Yeah, they might send like a couple hundred, 1,000.
Yeah, have
1,000.
him. Have your dad. I take it. Yeah, put up an address and tag Max Keiser, Stacy Herbert, and we'll try to get the Tooth Fairy. Fuck the Tooth Fairy, Michael. Okay, let's talk man to man. Okay, the Tooth Fairy is a bitch. Right? She's like, you're not gonna get jack shit from Tooth Fairy. Yeah, this is where the mother load is. This is where you get the big payoff. Okay, and don't. Whatever you do, resist the temptation to buy a Lamborghini. I know you're going to be tempted.
See, the good thing is, you're like 10 years away from being able to buy a Lamborghini, or 8 years away, right? So
Yeah.
you're not going to blow it. You have 2 more bull market cycles to go through.
Right. When you go to the candy store and you see those Tootsie Rolls in the jar, stay away. Okay, it's a gateway drug to Lamborghini. Okay, just be like, watch those Michael Saylor videos to get into that Zen state. And I'd just like to remind
Don't watch old Max Keiser, because you might be scared and you might run away and be.
just a reminder that all the smart things Michael Saylor says, I said first.
Oh my God.
So anyway, well, we'll put that. Nice to meet you.
Hopefully, we'll get you a whole bunch more satoshis.
We're going to work on that. And congratulations, you're a model citizen, a model orange-pilled
All right,
Bitcoiner.
Bitcoiner here.
Yeah, Michael, watch your step. Okay, there's the little stairs. There you go.
That's some
And
solid.
Right.
in the last few minutes here, okay, he left. No, he's over here. In the last few minutes here, I want to say, because we've been talking about President Bukele and Bitcoin country, and quickly bring up Oscar Dominguez here. He's our Vice Minister of Agriculture. And I want to just... What?
Correction. Yesterday, I named Minister of Agriculture.
Oh, wow! He got a promotion! Woohoo!
Yeah,
All right.
baby.
You're growing a lot of corn?
Exactly. Do we grow a lot of corn here? Do you know how we call Bitcoin corn?
No.
See, we need to teach him. So we need Michael, this kid Michael. He's going to teach you about some corn, okay? He's been stacking corn. But no, President Bukele has a very deep pool of talent, right? Including guys like Oscar. So we get to work very closely with Oscar. And what do you think about Bitcoiners and Bitcoin policy? This was all thrust upon you, right? You had to learn very fast.
Okay, maybe I will need some translator, man. Mario?
Here he comes.
Hey,
Mario,
everybody.
ladies and gentlemen, Mario.
Hello, Bitcoiners. Okay. I will use my native language, Spanish, but Mario will help me. Muchas personas desconocen la parte del Bitcoin.
A lot of people are not really that familiar with Bitcoin.
Sobre todo, muchas personas que son opositoras al gobierno del presidente Bukele pensaban de que el Bitcoin no iba a servir de nada.
Especially a lot of people that are against Nayib Bukele, they thought that Bitcoin was not going to work at any level.
Mucho menos en agricultura.
Even less in agriculture.
Pero con Stacy y Max, es decir, con el apoyo de la oficina Bitcoin en El Salvador,
Especially thanks with the help of Max and Stacy, so meaning the Bitcoin office in El Salvador.
And Mario.
Me.
And Mario.
And had a song that I don't know.
Y antes que todo, lo siento por mi dress code, pero vengo de trabajar.
And sorry for my dress code, but I come from work. So.
Entonces, qué casualidad, o mejor dicho, qué maravilla, porque yo también ocupo Bitcoin, saber de que por medio del Bitcoin íbamos o vamos a solucionar uno de los mayores problemas que ha tenido nuestro sector agricultor.
And so, just by chance, we are just about to fix one of the biggest agricultural problems that we had in this country, thanks to Bitcoin.
¿Por qué?
Why?
Uno de los mayores problemas para producir en El Salvador, ya sea carne o ya sea productos de la tierra, ha sido los altos costos de los insumos.
So one of the biggest problems that agriculture has had in this country is the high prices for fertilizers, for plants, or things that you need for cattle raising.
Por lo tanto, apareció una empresa que es de las mejores en el mundo en la venta de fertilizantes.
And so one of the biggest fertilizer producers and sellers of the world just showed up with something.
Y adivinen, nos van a dar los mejores precios con una condición.
And so take a guess. And so the guess is that they're going to give us the best prices in the world with one condition.
Yep.
Exactly.
Pagando con Bitcoin, vamos a tener alrededor del 30, 40 y hasta el 50% de descuento de los precios actuales.
And so with Bitcoin, we're going to get 30, 40, and sometimes 50% discount on actual prices of these commodities from the whole world.
Adivinen otra cosa más.
Take another guess.
Ahora agricultores y ganaderos están empezando a aprender a ocupar Bitcoin.
And so now, thanks to that, agricultures and cattle raisers are learning about Bitcoin and how to use it.
Porque ellos mismos también van a poder hacer los pedidos directamente pagando en Bitcoin.
Because they are going to be able to make their individual buys of these fertilizers paying with Bitcoin.
Así que ahora le estamos dando una patada, ya saben a dónde, a todos aquellos que decían de que el Bitcoin no iba a ayudar a El Salvador y mucho menos en la agricultura.
And so now we're kicking the balls of the Bitcoin doubters of El Salvador.
Así que oficialmente quiero decir unas palabras que van a salir mucho de mi corazón.
And so officially I want to say some words that come from my heart.
Gracias, Oficina Bitcoin.
Thank you, Bitcoin Office.
Y gracias también a ustedes, porque sé que a muchos de ustedes les gusta el guayú.
And also want to say thank you to all of you because I know that some of you also love Wagyu meat.
Yes or not?
Do you?
And guess what?
Guess what?
Estamos empezando a producir guayú en El Salvador.
Yeah, we're starting to raise Wagyu here in this country. Your things.
Y hay un inversionista que es bitcoiner y a la vez es ganadero.
And so there's someone who's going to raise this Wagyu. There's a Bitcoiner and he's also a cattle raiser.
Y él también va a montar una ganadería de guayú y angus en El Salvador.
And he's going to start to cattle raise Wagyu and Angus in this country.
El Salvador puede. El Salvador puede y lo estamos demostrando. Y también lo estamos haciendo por trabajar con verdaderos aliados. Del presidente Bukele Así que muchas gracias a cada uno de ustedes también.
El Salvador is capable, and we are working with the allies and with the President Bukele. So thank you very much to all of you.
It's a true story, by the way. Robert Breedlove was in town, and he was staying in El Zante, and he sent me a DM. He sent me a DM complaining about the meat. So I forwarded it to the president, and he got the Minister of Agriculture onto it, and that's why we have some Wagyu now. So, it's fun. That's what I'm saying, that we're if you move here, you could help build Bitcoin country just by your complaints. Like, you can, just send me a DM, complain about something, and we'll try to fix it. I think that's about a wrap, because how do we top that?
No, I think that wraps it up. Big Sean, take us off.
Let's go. Let's get that. Thank you, Max and Stacy. Thank you, Oscar. We appreciate it. Muchas gracias, Oscar. Gracias por venir. Thank you. Got a little something for you guys. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to everyone. Max and Stacy, as usual, never fail to deliver.